This is my first Unity programming video. So I would recommend, if you want to develop in Unity, start with Unity Hub. It's really good for managing all your projects and what your projects need as far as libraries. We're going to create a brand new project. So under Unity Hub, I'm going to click on New. And this is going to be more like a Hello World project, only it's going to have a single button and single text. So I'll go to 2D and type in my project name. Button press example is my project name, and I'll hit create. And Unity would be a good choice if you want to do app development and you want to deploy to both the Android and the Apple, the iOS operating system. So most people with cell phones or tablets would be able to download your app if you've got it in the Google Play Store and the App Store. So Unity is an amazing choice, but there's a bit of a learning curve. So that's why I wanted to create some videos to help people that are just getting started. So right here, I have a hierarchy of what's visible in my scene right now. And right now we've got nothing. We've got a sample scene and all we have is a camera, which you're always going to have a camera. I'm going to create some new components in here. They're user interface components. I'll create one text component. And instead of saying the words new text, it's going to say times clicked. I want to keep track of how many times the button has been clicked. And instead of having a dark colored font, I'm going to pick a yellow font. So right now it looks like teeny tiny little font. We're going to have to change the size of that. But before I do that, I want to add something else to the canvas. I want to add a button, a user interface, and I'm going to look for a button. And it ended up putting the button on top of my text. We need to move things around. And always it seems like the font's too small for me to read. Maybe my eyes are going bad. But I'm going to go to, right now we're in game, I'm going to jump over to the scene view. And if you can't see your component in the scene view, go ahead and select it in the hierarchy and click F on your keyboard and it'll zoom in, and here my text is right under the button. That's why I can't see it. But I'm going to move things around. So in the upper left corner, there's some very useful buttons there. I'm going to click on the second one, which will add some arrows to my component. There's an up arrow I can use to drag a component down or up. So make sure you have the component you want to move selected. So button selected, I can drag that down or up. I can select the text, I can drag that down or up. Instead of text, I'm going to give it a more descriptive name, like times clicked label. So that's a mouthful. We can also change the size of the box that you're using to display that. And the reason I want to change the size is I want to go from size 14 to size 50 font, and if I just change the font size, it looks like it's disappeared from the screen, but the real reason is that the box that we want to display it in is too small. So I'm going to select this button right here, and now I can see a box around the whole text, and if I make it big enough, then all of a sudden my text reappears. So that was the only problem, was that I didn't have enough space to display that. You can scroll in and out and see the whole app. So I'm happy with the size of this times clicked label, but my button's a little small. In the hierarchy, the button has a expandable menu because inside of the button is the text that's being displayed on that button. Instead of the word button, I'm going to say click here. Entice people to click on that button. And again, I want a different font size, maybe 25, and I could make the button a bit bigger. Oops, I just made the text part a bit bigger, not the whole button. So let me click on the button and make that a little bit larger. We can move the text component inside the button. We could change the background of the button. So right now the color is white. Pick something else fancy, maybe red. Then I might have to change the text color, so maybe a lighter color. How about green? Okay, so I'm ready to add some action to happen every time the button's clicked. Right now, if I were to hit run, then it's going to start running this, and you can click on the button, but absolutely nothing's going to happen. So instead of running it now, let's put some code on before we run it. And you can toggle on and off with the play button here. So with the button selected, I can see all the properties related to that button. I'm going to add a brand new component. At the bottom, there's an Add Component button. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and choose New Script, and that may be off of my video, but look for New Script, and I'm going to type in, let's see, Sample Button Script as the name there, and create and add this script. And so we'll see we have a new asset called Sample Button. If I were to double click on that, we'll open that up for editing. I have Unity configured to work with Visual Studio. I'd recommend that for you as well. It's good for doing code completion inside your project. So this is the default code. We've got a class called Sample Button Script, and there's two functions. I'm going to add something to the beginning of this. I'm going to add first a publicly available component that's not text alignment. It tried to auto-complete that and it did it wrong, but just a text component, say called myLabel, and a private, only editable and viewable inside of the class, a private component number. Okay, why is it underlining text in red? Using lines up here, what's being pulled into the project, it doesn't know what text is. So if you hover over the red underline, it gives you a tip saying, well, this might be a way to fix it. If you pull in a library that has a text class, then we'll be able to know what text is. So I'm going to add using Unity Engine.UI. So now it knows what a text object is. So we've got the two components inside of the start. That'll be run once when the scene starts. I'm going to initialize the number integer to 0, and I'll also do a print statement in start, just so we can see when that's run. I don't need an update function for what I'm doing, but I do need another function, and I want it to be publicly available. So I'll do a public void, and I'm going to call this the button was pressed. So I believe in like describing fully with your variable names and your function names what you're doing instead of having one-word variable names or function names. So the button was pressed, a little bit verbose, but what do we want to do every time the button was pressed? We want to update the number variable. So number is going to be number plus 1. And then I also want to update the label. And the label has more than one thing going on. There's a font type, there's a font size. We want to get the component text. And here's what we want to set the text to, times clicked. Only this time, we're going to use what's in the variable number to update the user and let them know how many times the button has been clicked. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to hit save here, and I can minimize this, but I'll come back to it if I made a syntax error. Notice there's a star next to sample scene. That's a sign that I might not have saved everything inside of this scene. We'll definitely want to save things. But there's one more step before we run it. I want to select button from the hierarchy and scroll down on the inspector and look under button, and right here it says on click, the list is empty. There's nothing that's going to happen when you click on the button. We're going to click on the plus sign and add something to happen. Well, where's it going to get the code to run when you click on the button? I'm going to select the sample button script and drag that into this box right here. And that will make the functions from that script available. So that was sample button script, and the function that I just wrote was called the button was pressed. So I'm going to select that from the pull-down menu. And that's a lot for your first Unity app if this is the first time you've done it, but let's hit play and see what happens. We see times clicked is 0. If I click, it didn't update the button. Let's see what's going on. So I will see, Okay, so null reference. So it tried to update, it tells you exactly what line number things went wrong. Line number 21, I go over into Visual Studio 21. So my label was set to nothing. I initialized the number to 0, but I didn't initialize the label to anything. So the way I do that is if you look at the sample button script, you can see my label is set to nothing. Well, I want it to be looking at this variable times clicked label, that component. I want it to be updating that one. So I'm going to make that small fix, run it again, and now voila, I see that every time I click the button it's updating the text. Okay, that's a lot if this is your first Unity program. I will come up with more Unity videos soon. Have a great day.